Do you want me to do a little intro?
Sure.
Okay. So we are here to talk about the deafening phenomenon of our time, heated rivalry. And two of us have finished it. Kirthan and I have just finished it, and Saul has just gotten into it. But we're still going to talk, and we'll try to keep, major spoilers to a minimum. But we're really, really excited to talk about this, just like the rest of the country.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
given that, I'm sort of curious to hear why the two of you think this show particularly works or what works about it. What feels compelling about it as a story?
Kirthana?
I was going to say it's the ultimate slow burn. You're watching these two characters meet at a critical time in their careers where they're positioned as rivals from the get-go once they join the hockey league. But there's like a instant spark in chemistry, and you get to see that play out in fits and starts along with a lot of hot sex. Which I think a huge part of this is the appeal that just, when it comes to depictions of queer romance, usually it's like, and you hear this a lot from, queer viewers as well. It's like the fade to black at a certain point, right? Once they hit the sheets. But this time there is no fade to black. You see it. And the connection you see when they meet, that connection is also there when they're like intimate together and they're having sex. And so I think that's really fun and exciting for viewers that don't usually see that kind of romance depicted, especially on mainstream television. So I think that's definitely a huge component.
Yeah, I mean, the sex is obviously the thing everyone's talking about, and you can't get around it. Um, it's very, especially because they lead with it. And we had talked off camera too about the fact that like we all stuck with this because it's been such a phenomenon that we're like, well, we better just find out what this is, even though the first episode or two is really, really just like sex and time jumps. That would be my alternate title for it. And I was really wondering at first, I was like, this is cool, and I understand we're doing hot sex, but like, are they gonna ever talk to each other, or is this just what they're doing? But I also sort of have a theory because everybody knows this too, that it has become kind of like a mom phenomenon. And I include myself in that age group, even though I don't have children. My text chains with middle-aged ladies are blowing up. They are all begging me to watch this, and I think we might be a little starved for just like hot sex scenes. Like I think we just don't, and this is like we just get outrageously attractive young men in, states of undress with this. And I think there's a little bit of that too, that we just don't get to see this much. And the other thing I do think is interesting is that you can tell me if you feel the same way, Kirthana, as a novelist. But I'm a little struck by if you sort of pay attention and just like settle in for those sex smash cuts in that first episode, um, they're actually doing storytelling with sex.
Yes.
And it's something you really don't see a lot. I'm struck by the fact that the one place I've seen it recently besides this is another gay romance, Fellow Travelers.
Mm.
And I don't know why that would be true, except that there might be a little less inhibition in the sex stuff because gender stuff is not all mixed in with it. And I wonder if also gay romances almost, and I'm not saying this because I'm like, oh, they're sex crazed, but I just mean like if you have, if you fight to come out, if you fight for your rights as a gay person, you're basically fighting for the right to have sex with who you want. And so, especially in Fellow Travelers, I thought about like, well, they're literally they're risking their lives in that one because it's the Lavender Scare, of the 50s. But similarly here, there's a lot on the line for them, right? And we see their passion and might even have to do a little bit with like these two characters are not particularly verbal.
Right.
And I don't think that's crazy. They're male athletes raised to be, macho. And so I also think there's like this is a romance and you will see, I mean, in the end it becomes kind of a more traditional swoony romance. I think that's not too much of a spoiler, but they have to build up to that through the sex in this case.
That's exactly it. They have such little time together, which those time jumps indicate. They are literally going like we're playing against each other. Can we squeeze this in like after the game? Oh, now we're at the Olympics. It's just the way their lives take them. The only time they have any brief moment together are those quiet moments after the games, you know? So and there really is, I think in novels versus TV, we don't have their interiority, right? Of what they're thinking, the anticipation, like, will I see him? Will we get to, you know, will we hook up? What does he think about me? It all has to be telegraphed through the visuals and their physicality together, which I find interesting. So, like both of you, I didn't find the first two episodes super compelling beyond the fact that I thought they were both really great actors with great chemistry. But there's something that happens, and I don't think you realize it until you see them together later in later episodes of what this show is doing, which is like as they finally get to spend more time together, there's less sex scenes
Yeah.
because now they're communicating in a different way. They're communicating, you know, they're having conversations. They're communicating in terms of their body language together, how they get physically intimate, like they're cuddling on the couch now, right? Versus just like smash cut, we're just like going to Pound Town. We have like 5 minutes, let's go, right? So I just feel like I actually respected that because you do like I feel like so often a sex scene, especially when it's like hetero romance, it's just like, well, now you know our two beautiful leads are together. Now we got to show them getting, you know, getting busy because this is what people want to see. And it's not about storytelling. It's just about, well, I don't know, Glenn Powell, Sydney Sweeney are beautiful, and people expect to see them, you know,
Yep.
having a hot sex scene. There's not a lot of storytelling in what that actual sex scene is. But where you with these two, because they're such two different people, oh yeah, you know, it's like, you know, cool and like he's just cool, guys.
What a
He's
great
just cool.
character. P.S.
And then Shane is just, you know, he's autistic, so he's just a little more introverted and figuring himself out more. The fact that once they actually have a place where they can just like press pause on their lives and spend time together, that's when this show comes alive in a way that everything that preceded it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and as I said to you before, like I almost wondered after watching it if this was like an actual artistic choice. And I kind of think yes, in a way. I'm not, I'm concerned that it wouldn't have worked on me if I didn't know that, like, oh no, everybody loves this show, you got to stick with it.
Yeah,
But it does also, almost like earns the ending
yeah,
because of all of what you just said. And it makes it like if they had just shown them sweet together, I would have been like, ugh, this is
right.
ridiculous. But they do earn that through this, and that's what makes it actually really interesting. It's just that I don't know, and I don't make TV for a living, so I don't know how I would do it differently to kind of telegraph, like, don't worry, we're getting somewhere. This is all gonna work, this is all gonna like make sense once we get there. But I'm really glad that I guess enough people who were early viewers stuck with it in order
Yeah,
to tell us, no, 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 stick
yeah.
with it. I'm telling you, it gets great.
And that's key, right? It was compelling to a lot of people from the start. So I don't think they had our concerns about waiting or like wondering, is this going to get better? And the fact that the majority of people, I think, were like in it from the get go is what, you know, made this show the phenomenon it is. And so other people like us who wanted to catch up and see what all the hoopla was about, you know, we actually had, okay, we get it now. But it was nice that people were in it from the get go because if they weren't, then this might have been, who knows what would happen.
Yeah.
Interesting to think about.
Yeah, I don't think anyone, involved realized just the level. Like I'm sure you always hope for something
Right.
nice, but I
Right.
just don't think that HBO or, the people who were even making it, it does not seem like a huge budget operation. I mean, it doesn't look terrible or anything. It just looks, like a mid-budget Canadian drama. And so I don't think that's part of the joy of this, right? Is like, wow, this thing, it's so fun when this happens.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a connection to be made here with a show that feels similar to me, even though the content is somewhat different, which is Nobody Wants This, which is
Hmm.
sort of like the other big romance phenomenon of the last, 2 years or so. Nobody Wants This is much less sexual. There's way
Yes.
fewer sex scenes, but it's also a show that's very much about the chemistry between two people and really like leaning into that. And then also the other thing that I was thinking about was that it's very much like the challenge with romantic comedies has been how do we convey any sense of stakes in a world where like entering a romantic relationship is like there aren't stakes to it anymore. And so I think both of them are sort of trying to figure out how to do that and do it in a way that feels compelling to viewers.
Man, did they do it here? I was thinking so much about this when watching it that, we've all talked a lot about how that's a huge problem with rom-coms now is just like, you know, that's why Jane Austen and all that used to be, it's fun because there's all these like re big reasons why certain people have to be together and others can't. Here we have two guys in hockey, professional hockey, so their careers are on the line, right? And then they add up, they add these stakes of like, first Canadian or one of the first Asian Canadian superstar players has all these endorsement deals, that's Hollander, and has this kind of momager who's watching him closely. And so they have kind of that part and his image, and then they just add Russia into the mix for fun. And there's a lot of implications and discussions about like I wouldn't be able to go back home if I came out. Like that's pretty big. And so I don't know, the author really threw it all in there, huh?
I mean, that's the interesting part. Apparently, hockey romances are a huge deal. Like, I didn't know that until this genre or until this show became a big hit. But there's something about the stakes of combining sports, which is especially like gay hockey romances, combining sports, which is famously, pretty unfriendly to like gay athletes, and so there's stakes embedded in that alone. But then like it's like that kind of forbidden romance element that like is irresistible, and I think that's one of the things that people love about romances in general. When the stake is like the stakes are we have to find ways to like be together and sneak off, and the path isn't easy, and it's not because like we hate each other now we love each other. The enemies to lovers thing, which a lot of people find compelling, but I think with heated rivalry, it's just the fact that the stakes are their personal lives, their professional lives, and the fact for the two of them, they just feel like I've never felt this way about anyone before. And I'm learning something about myself through this relationship. So it's like stakes upon stakes upon stakes.
Yeah, just it's so, and I mean, I didn't even mention that, but yeah, the title is Heated Rivalry, right? Like the point they just for a bonus points, they're like, oh, and also they're the two best in the league.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I like how they they don't get too into media and stuff, but I felt like there was this implication almost of like, oh, the media just set them up as rivals,
Yeah.
right? It's not like, I mean, they would trash talk each other a little and like, um, Ilya is just a kind of jerk with a heart of gold. Right? Everybody says he's a jerk all the time and he just like says stuff. But, it's like, they don't really hate each other ever. Their first interaction is perfectly friendly. So it's like it's not really that they hate each other. It's just that they sort of give that to the cameras, right? So, because they know that that's what they want. So that's just yet another level of like, why they can't be together. And I don't remember the last time I've seen a romance with this many great obstacles.
I really, I really hope someone out there, preferably the people involved with the show, are busy making Montreal Metros and Boston Raiders jerseys, because that will be, the biggest get of the next Halloween cycle, I'm imagining.
I think they're already out there.
Oh,
I
good.
do not know who's manufacturing them, but I've seen it online. So like, yeah, it's happening. I don't know if they're just like enterprising Etsy stores or what, but you're totally right. In fact, you saying that, I'm like so in the tank right now for this that I'm like, ooh, I think I want that. Um, well, I'm not going to buy that. I'm not going to. Um, but it is really it's so exciting and we should talk just a little bit about the fact that we have reached, I don't know if it's quite peak. We got to be pretty close to peak heated rivalry phenomenon right now. I mean, because they were just at the Golden Globes, and I feel like every time I open any of my social media, it's a new clip of one or both of them on like a talk show.
Yep. Yep. That's how I know. If something snuck into my algorithm in a way I'm like, I wasn't actually looking for it. It's just like my algorithm knows I finished watching the show.
Yes.
Right? I was like, how does it know I finished watching it? But Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited for these two actors. You know, we're true working actors. They both talked about how they were, you know, working at restaurants, doing the struggling actor thing. This show came up. It was a big deal for them just to get these lead roles. And suddenly they just exploded out of a cannon. And they are suddenly superstars hobnobbing with A-list elite. And everybody wants to be in their orbit. And I feel like it feels like they're managing it so well. That's the amount of level of fame, not to mention the intense social media scrutiny, this parasocial aspect where everyone now wants to like ship them or wants to see like their personal lives. And it's a really interesting example of what it's like to be famous or suddenly famous in
Yes.
this particular era where people are so invested in you as a person, your celebrity, and then your TV show. And you just where you start building those boundaries so you can like and also it'll be very easy to be Ilya and Shane from Hareed Rivalry for the rest of your lives. And how
Yeah.
do you build a career from this? Like you're never gonna be hotter than right now. Do you get to be Jonathan Bailey from Bridgerton, or do you get to be I forget his other name, but the other cute guy from the first season of
Oh,
Bridgerton,
that
right?
guy. Yeah.
Sorry, I
This
forgot, but
is,
he was
well, this
amazing.
is exactly
But
the
that's what it
point.
is, right?
It's exactly the point.
Yeah,
And I mean, what I will say, first of all, is that I cannot get enough of these two, especially when they're together. Like the chemistry is insane. They're
yeah.
so adorable together. And separately, I will watch these interviews now too. And now my algorithm started giving it to me, and then it was like, oh, you love this. I will watch them do anything at this point. I thought they were the highlight of the Golden Globes by far. Um, like they just like it was like who does a bit and you know they're doing a bit and it's still charming. Do you know what I mean? Like they had them doing a clear bit and it was still adorable. Hudson Williams looked unbelievable. His fashion. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we're a fashion plate now, are we?" Does this when you see stuff like this, do you guys get nervous at this point? Because I there's a little part of me that always it reminds me of like Chapel Roan's the last person I can think of who
Mm.
has had like an overnight meteoric rise out of like having been working normally for a long time and then suddenly super famous. And these guys seem to be really taking it in stride, but I just there's just part of me that always gets nervous about this stuff
That,
now.
yeah, that's what I was just thinking about. I was thinking about Chapel Roan in particular. I read in one of the stories that I came across that I don't remember which of the two actors, but one of them was waiting tables 8 months ago. Like that's a pretty dizzying ride to success. And I think the strain of it must be intense to have to go from being a regular person to someone who, everything you do is being covered and scrutinized and looked at. And, I think the Tom Cruises of the world, like for better and for worse, they've had a lot of time to get used to that.
Right.
And having that suddenly thrust upon you, it feels frightening to me. I don't know how they feel about it.
It really does. And they since they seem to like each other so much, that's giving me a little bit of solace. Like I bet Chapel Roan would have liked to have like a best friend with her at all times, right? Like I think it reminds me a little of like boy bands and how I mean certainly people from boy bands have had meltdowns too, but you kind of almost if I don't know if it's true statistically, but my feeling is you see it a little less and my theory is that they're with others going through the exact same thing. And these two are literally going through the same thing at the same time. And so I'm very happy that at least from what we can tell, they seem to be friends because I think that'll make it a little bit easier. I love to now imagine that they're constantly texting each other just like their characters. Um, and hopefully, being a little nicer to each other than Ilya. But yeah, it's both fun because I can tell they seem like good guys. Like I cannot believe Connor Story learned Russian for this role. I mean, I don't speak Russian beyond a few words. I can say Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. But it seems pretty good to me. I mean, this man has whole scenes in Russian
Yeah,
with,
it's
I
amazing.
think, I'm guessing probably native Russian speakers, because why would you not hire a native Russian speaker to play like his dad? Um, yeah, I'm very impressed with that, especially given that there's like a Russia sequence where really everyone is speaking Russian.
Yeah, so what do you both think is the attraction here for audiences? Obviously, this show has struck a tremendous nerve for people. I think for me, one thing I want to throw out there is a connection potentially between this show and The White Lotus. as being
Hmm.
shows that are like beautiful and escapist and sort of immersive. And obviously the structure and tone and everything is totally different, but I'm wondering if I'm gonna put, a little bit of like a political or social spin on this here, but like things feel pretty dire at the moment in a
It's
lot
fair.
of ways and a lot of spheres. And so maybe the thought of entering this just like beautiful romantic space with these, attractive performers who have great chemistry together and just sort of immersing yourself in their world. Is that maybe part of what feels appealing here?
Oh yeah, because one of the things I was thinking of, I think anytime you watch a show with two characters who are having gay romance, you're like something bad's gonna happen, right? At
Yes.
some point, something bad's gonna happen. That's what this is building to. Someone's gonna get outed. Someone's gonna have to deal with harassment or something worse. I just, I mean, it just never happens. It's such a relief to watch a show and like just letting two people fall in love and have that be something that they're worried about. But as viewers, we don't ever get that, and we can just enjoy the romance, and that is a big deal. I mean, there's that trope called "bury your gays," where a lot of
Yeah.
TV shows, especially in the '90s and early 2000s, inevitably the gay character would get killed off, and
Yep.
it would be so viewers would take it so personally because it was just kept happening. You would see it in Buffy famously. There were other shows, so many shows, but I remember when Buffy happened, people were
Yep.
just really upset because it's like, why can't we just have this nice thing? Why does it always have to feed into the drama and be character building for the straight characters
That's
around them,
right.
right?
We
It's never
all
even
learned an important lesson here by that gay character's death. And
exactly. So it's
that's the
never
gay
even
people die.
exactly, and it's a tragedy, but anyways. But that was like it was so nice because I knew at some level for the fact that watching the phenomenon happen from the outside, I knew at some level that this movie is just a romance without that kind of drama and that kind of angst. So whenever I did start watching it, I knew I didn't have to worry about that aspect. And considering where we are right now in the world, where there's so much to be stressed and concerned about, to be able to dip into the show and just know, nope, it's gonna be about them getting to be romantical? No, getting to
Romantic.
be
It's
romantic,
fine.
getting to be romantic, just fall in love and just enjoy a romance in the same way I can enjoy like a Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson romance. It's just like nothing really will ever go truly wrong with them. And it's the same with Heated Rivalry. I think that's a really big deal, especially for viewers who don't see themselves and their lives and their romances depicted on screen.
I literally made swooning noises the last 2 nights. Like I was like, Jesse, my partner is gonna wonder what I'm doing down here because I'm just like, oh, like there's a lot of good swoon-worthy moments. And the other thing I want to say is just that like I wish I could explain this, but it's almost ineffable. But this show, I felt this way about Fellow Travelers again, which is deeply tragic, by the way, and very political. But still, like there's something happening now where like more queer shows they feel more like natural. It doesn't feel like anyone's like, look, here we have our gay romance thing happen. Like it doesn't feel that way. And I assume that that's because there are queer people involved on various levels. And I don't exactly know what the quality is, and I'm going to say it in a really tropey way that like they just happen to be about gay people. Do you know what I mean? And I hate when people normally say like it's about a person who just happens to be gay. But now I kind of understand why you say that, really, because it all feels very natural. It doesn't feel like a straight person's conception of what gay people do. Even though, I mean, it was written by a woman, and I don't know her sexual orientation, but the books were anyway. And I don't know, there's just something where, like, I do also love how, and this is not technically true, but the way they've set it up is like the only people we really know in hockey are gay. So it just feels like everybody's gay in this world. It feels like it could just be an alternate world where um, my partner and I rewatched The Cosby Show several years ago. I don't mean to evoke The Cosby Show, but we can leave Cosby baggage aside and say we were really struck by like he said something like, "Is this just a show that's about like another planet where like black people are mainly in charge and they have all the cool jobs? Like you barely ever saw white people. It was just like this totally different world that they built that, and this is kind of what it felt like in this show too, that like the three main guys who we happen to know and who talk to each other are also gay in hockey. And it just feels like, oh, everybody's just a little gay in hockey, and that's fine. It's great. It's really cool. And it feels both realistic and but not too realistic. You know, it's this heightened romance. And I think in the end, it might just be, I mean, look at what happened with Nobody Wants This. That too was a surprise phenomenon. I hope someone in Hollywood is like writing some stuff down and going like, what do some of these things have in common?
Yeah.
Because we've really not been doing romances.
No, and that's what's so peculiar about it is that it feels like with each of these phenomena, right, both of which felt like they were grassroots and kind of came out of nowhere, the connecting tissue is people like watching attractive people with chemistry fall in love with each other, which
Weird.
PS is a lesson that Hollywood learned, I don't know, 120 years ago. It's a little bit odd that the powers that be have kind of misplaced this, right? And like, you know, there's lots to be said about the ways in which movies and television have changed the kinds of stories they tell and, you know, the Marvel and Star Warsization of
Right.
everything. But like, this is a pretty like basic element of what people like in entertainment is like show us attractive people, make them have chemistry, let them have nice personalities that we enjoy, and let us enjoy spending time in their company. Like this is what Hollywood did for decades and decades and decades, and it's a little bit funny to watch them. I don't know if even reinvent the wheel or just like accidentally stumble into reinventing the wheel by making these shows.
It's so weird, but it's also what Glenn Powell like does best. So I hope, and I know I've read that he actually like genuinely likes and wants to do more rom-coms. And given his rise, I hope that he can sort of make that happen. Because yeah, and I know again, it does require some creativity, right? Both of these cases that we've just cited are like, they had to work a little to come up with the reasons these people couldn't be together. And it's interesting how much they have to do with identity, but that's what we have now, right? And so it can be done, and there's also plenty of other ways to do this. I think of something like You've Got Mail. That could still be,
Mhm.
that's the kind of plot that could still happen today. Just give them, jobs where they can't be together. Like there's a lot of ways to do this, is what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
I hope people start getting creative in Hollywood and doing it. And it's like you don't need a lot of budget. Just beautiful people with chemistry.
I mean, this show, they basically bought a couple of helmets and some skates and called it a day. So
And,
yeah,
and a
it's
cottage.
doable.
And a cottage.
I mean, I also remember that like very early on when it was like they were showing those hockey, I was like, I have a feeling a lot of the hockey stuff doesn't make any sense, but fine, sure, great. Let's don't care about the hockey. Let's just do it. I'm so interested to see what Hollywood takes from this and makes. Um, we're gonna get some bad stuff, but hopefully we'll also get some good stuff. They always take the wrong messages, right? So they're like, I think it was the hockey they liked. I think it was the ice.
Right.
Like who knows what they're gonna decide. But I hope that they at least take some of the good lessons here and just like also the discovery of new stars. How fun was that? Just like actually finding two new people we'd never, we don't remember seeing and, making them stars. I think there's something really fun for the audience about that because you get to be like, we all discovered them at the same time, but we get to feel as if like we discovered them personally.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that harkens back to sort of the golden age of hangout shows, where again, like a lot of it was maybe less about romance, but still about kind of like, um, attractive, appealing people hanging out together and us enjoying their friendship chemistry, right? And so, yeah, I think we've lost sight of that a little bit too. And so, yeah, just getting to see fresh faces, not having it be the same familiar people, I think is always tremendously appealing.
I know it's hard, but please, Hollywood, just put a little work in.